What's up, everybody? This is Brian Mazik, featured columnist for BleacherReport.com, also aka Franchise Play, right? Now, everybody knows, for the most part, all my subs know, my subscribers know, generally, I like to keep it light, fun, have some fun, talk about some non-serious things. But to borrow a line from a former WWE star, Lance Storm, if I can be serious for a moment, Donald Sterling, the owner of the Los Angeles Clippers, and forgive the focusing in and out of the camera. This is a thing. It's weird. Like I said, a lot of people, anybody that's in the know, is not surprised by the fact that Donald Sterling would make the racist comments that he allegedly made, based off of the audio recording that was allegedly a conversation between he and his girlfriend. Um, if you're unaware of that, TMZ broke a story on Friday night, about racist comments that were being made by Donald Sterling, talking to his girlfriend. Just a lot of things, saying that he didn't want African Americans allowed at his games. She shouldn't bring African Americans to his games. He didn't want her associating publicly with African Americans. Apparently, she took a picture with Magic Johnson, and I guess that was part of the issue. The girlfriend, just so you know, if you don't know, is half black, half Mexican. So it makes no sense, but people who are familiar with Donald Sterling are probably used to things that he says or does not actually making any sense. So this is the situation. You're hearing some people that are going off and they're saying things like, you know, boycott the Clippers, don't deal with the Clippers, can't, this, that, and the third. I'll tell you where I sit in a second. And then you're hearing some people that are saying stuff like, well, I'm a fan of the team, not of Donald Sterling. I know he's a jerk. Or I like the players, not Donald Sterling. So I don't care anything about Donald Sterling. Um, I'll tell you, for me, as much as I love Blake Griffin, as much as I love Doc Rivers, as much as I love Chris Paul, as much as I love DeAndre Jordan and those players, and just overall the whole, just the Clipper uprising from being like a nothing type of a team in the NBA, a joke more or less, to a real legitimate NBA Finals contender. As much as I love and respect what's happened with that team, uh, you cannot separate the two. If a person owns a team, okay, every piece of success that they enjoy, that team enjoys, is monetarily beneficial to the owner. Okay, so you're rooting for Chris Paul, Blake Griffin to win a championship. And yes, they'll be happy they won, and you'll be happy they won because you're that fan. You're a fan of the team. You've been a Clippers fan for years or whatever it is. But in the back room, away and out of the spotlight, so to speak, Donald Sterling is counting dough off of that success. And we're in a place in professional sports. Well, we've always been in this place where basically this is a business. And if things are bad for business, they're usually taken away from the game, especially if they're associated with the behavior of a player. You look at the NFL, with the increased types of punishments that you've seen Roger Goodell throw down on players, and some people may have think that those punishments were exorbitant or whatever. But I'll be honest with you, if you work for somebody and your behavior means or shows that you are making yourself a black eye or a bad representative of that business, the people or person or entity that owns that business has a right to say, you no longer properly represent me and I don't want you working for me anymore. So whether or not it's you smoking weed, whether or not it's you getting into fights with your girlfriend or wife, or whether or not it's you doing anything that's illegal or anything that's frowned upon in this establishment, whatever it is, if you're deemed as a person who is not properly representing this company, that company has a right to say, hey, we don't, especially if there's something written in your contractual agreement that says that's the case. So these companies, these leagues have all pretty much put out that um, the owners, management, coaches, that sort of thing are being held to a higher standard, or supposed to be held to a higher standard than the players. Okay, Jim Irsay got in some trouble. We'll see what happens with him. I'm not saying what his issues are as bad. I mean, his issues are pretty much, you know, self-destructive more so than anything. But that should be addressed as well, because if it was a player, you'd obviously see it being addressed, and I think it will be. But in the NBA, we're looking at a situation where what happens is the owners hide behind the players are the front guys. The players and the coaches are the front guys. When fans have problems with the team, the people that they usually go at is they go at the players. The players are the guys they see all the time. They're the representatives. The coaches are right there almost in that same level. But in the whole pantheon of this, in the org structure and the org chart of these organizations, the players and the coaches are very low on the list. So this contract that you see that Blake Griffin signs, or this contract that you see that Chris Paul signs, or even Alex Rodriguez or somebody like that signs, that type of contract that you see is peanuts compared to what the owner makes. Okay, so the owner, think about it. If you have an employee that you can afford to pay $25 million a year, one employee, how much must you be making to be able to afford to pay that out? But yet, when it comes to free agency, when it comes to that type of thing, the only people that are being held to a standard of loyalty are the players. Small employees in the whole overall picture. So now I say all this to say, we see the J.R. Smiths and we see Alvin Smiths and that bad day for Smiths, right? We see all of those people being, bludgeoned because of their bad behavior. And you'll never hear me say that a guy yelling bomb in an airport, or you'll never hear me say a dude that is, unwise enough to make, derogatory comments towards another player, or threatening comments toward another player on Twitter, or some of the other things that you've seen some guys do. You'll never hear me try to defend those guys doing that stuff, right? You also won't hear me defend Riley Cooper, whom I can't for the life of me understand how he was not even suspended or anything, for like enough formally did not happen to Riley Cooper, in my opinion, based off of some of the other punishments that we had. But that's neither here nor there. I digress, more or less. So, like I said, I say all this to say, if you have these guys being punished on this level for what they're doing, and basically what it all kind of boils down to is that these guys, their behavior made them a bad representation for the company. That's what their behavior did. So if they're a bad representation for their company for their behavior, how is Donald Sterling not a bad representation for the company overall? And now we're not talking about just the Clippers, because he owns the Clippers, but the Clippers are part of the NBA, and the NBA is bigger than the Clippers. So why or how would Commissioner Adam Silver, who answers to the owners, we know that he answers to the owners, he works for the owners, but how would that not negatively affect the NBA? Now I'm gonna tell you how it won't negatively affect the NBA. Because if people only get on social media and crack jokes and do memes and vines and, oh, I can't stand Donald Sterling, oh, I hope Clippers lose. If that's all that people do to express their displeasure for what has happened, then this will blow over. It'll be just another social media fad, a joke that we revisit here and there. Yeah, you know how the Clippers are. Oh, if a black player is about to get drafted, we crack a few jokes. Oh, hope he doesn't go to the Clippers. But there won't be any effect where it counts, which is in the bank accounts, in the wallets. There won't be any effect. The way you make an effect on something is you stop paying for it. You stop paying towards it. If you don't stop paying towards something, then you're just running your mouth. That's all you're doing. And some people have sports in such a improper perspective that they can't give up temporarily something because they're just so used to rooting for the Clippers. They just love Blake Griffin so much. And I love Blake Griffin too. But Blake Griffin can get traded. Blake Griffin can go somewhere else in a free agent as a free agent. And I'll be a fan of his wherever he goes because I like Blake Griffin. But the Clippers are the Clippers as long as they're Donald Sterling's team as long as he owns them. He's the mainstay. He's the guy that doesn't change unless somebody makes that change. Now, obviously, we know it's not easy to completely uproot an owner, but strange events cause unusual things to happen. So this is something that is not an ordinary occurrence because how often do you hear, people doing something like this? The only precedents that I can really think back to immediately off the top of my head is Marge Schott. Marge Schott of Cincinnati Reds made some, and this was what 20 years ago probably. Marge Schott made some racist comments. She was the former owner of the Cincinnati Reds. She made some racist comments, and ultimately she was somewhat forced out of her spot. What has to happen is things like Magic Johnson saying, me or my wife will never go to a Clippers game again. Stephen A. Smith had something today. He said, well, the players thought about or contemplated not playing in the game. Now, I'll be honest, if that was to happen, I would applaud those guys to a new level. But that's a bold move because we're talking about people who are contractually obligated to show up and play at a game. But sometimes you have to go against the grain to make a statement. Do you have any idea how much money it would cost the NBA and how bad of a black eye it would be towards the NBA if a team, even if it was just the African American players, even if it was just the minority players, but you would hope that you would get support from more than just the African American and minority players. But even if it was if Blake Griffin, Chris Paul, DeAndre Jordan, Jamal Crawford, Doc Rivers doesn't show up for Game 3, do you have any idea the impact that would have? What if enough players don't show up for the game to actually be played? The revenue, the impact, that's how you force a hand. That's how you force a hand. And people might say, oh man, well, they'll be forfeiting their chance to win a championship. Wow, championship means so much. What does a championship mean more than your dignity? Does a championship mean more than your dignity? And maybe it does, and I'm not going to say like that's an easy decision to make, as I sit here on YouTube in my house as a journalist, YouTube personality, making comments, not playing for a professional team. I'm not going to try to make it sound like that's an easy decision or something you just make like that. It would be an incredibly bold move if that would have happened. Incredibly bold. But it would be one that I think is necessary in order to really make a change. If you allow the owners to dictate what happens with this, Donald Sterling's going to get punished. He is. But this dude's an owner. He's an owner. What fine are you going to give him that's going to make a big enough impact to him that it's going to, at the end of the day, I mean, this guy's, what is he, 80 something? You're not going to change his mind. He's not going to stop being racist because you gave him a fine. He's not. You can't send Donald Sterling to sensitivity classes. You're not going to send him to diversity clinic and it's going to change something. It's not. This dude is who he is. And because of who he is, he should not be an owner in this organization, in the NBA. He shouldn't be an owner. That's just all this to it. And to be honest with you, because this has been something that's been suspected for so long, it shouldn't even have to come to this. But we are at this point. And now there's things that need to be done. And the only way they're going to happen is if fans put their money where their mouth is, or take their money and, take their money away from the situation. If you keep running out the games, you might as well keep your social media. You might as well keep your tweets. If you keep watching the clip, I watch it. I watch every playoff game, but I will not watch another Clippers game this playoff season. I won't. I'm not. I'm not watching another Clippers game this playoff season. That's my pullback from it. Um, and it's a shame because I love that style of play. I like that team. I like that team a lot. Out of everybody in the Western Conference, if you ask me before now, who I wanted to come out of the West, it'd be the Clippers. I love that team. There's nobody really on that team that I just like don't I mean I love that team. But mm-mm, no, we can't. I can't go. I can't go. So that's me on the serious side. You probably hardly ever see these types from me. I mean, I even got on camera for this because I think I needed to look people in their face when I said what I thought. You know what I mean? So that's it, man. Hopefully, I didn't turn nobody off. If I did, I'm sorry, but I got to be me. Y'all subscribe, follow. Peace.